Okay, hello everybody.
Hi.
This is Yang Tai Chi traditional long form, and this is section 1. And I'd like to start kind of from ground zero, and then everybody will know we'll be working off the same base, okay?
Right.
So the first thing is salute. Okay, so the salute is the fist, which is curling your fingers to the palm and putting your thumb across the front. You see this? So that you have a flat face. So you want to be able to punch with a flat face. Okay. Then the other hand is the palm. And in Tai Chi, we have the fingers somewhat separated generally and relaxed, okay, not tensed up or anything. But in this case, we have our fingers together to form a paper. So the salute is the fist covered by the paper. And the thumb is hidden. So the significance is you have the fist, which is the martial side, the paper, which is the scholar side, and they come together, and the thumb, which is a symbol of the ego, is hidden as a sign of humility. And so you put your feet together and you put forth this united sign of friendship or peace. And usually the teacher says 同学们好, which is students hello, and the students respond 老师好, which is teacher hello. But we don't have to do that. I'll just say hello, everybody. So this is your first instance of the duality in Tai Chi. So you have the martial side and the scholar side. So what is Tai Chi? According to the classics, Tai Chi is born of Wu Ji and is the mother of yin and yang. So Tai Chi is ultimate pole. Wu Ji is no pole. So what is Wu Ji? Wu Ji is no form, no movement, nothing. Tai Chi is the opposite pole of that. It is everything. And it is the dynamic interplay between yin and yang. So I've been looking for good words for yin and yang. And I found a pretty good one for yin, which is shadow, because shadow implies light. But the word light does not imply shadow. So the word I would like to use for light is either glow or radiance, because that gives you the sense of a light that comes out of darkness. Okay. So the properties of yin and yang are, they're discrete, right? Like you cannot say day is night or night is day. They are discrete from each other. But each depends on the other. In other words, neither can exist without the other. You can't have day without night or night without day. And each limits the other. Okay. So once you have day, it gets to its height, and then it starts becoming the other. Okay, so that's the third property. At its limit, it starts to become the other. So these properties of yin and yang, you see the yin yang symbol, and it's kind of like two fish or something where one kind of becomes the other, and each has a little circle that shows that each has the seed of the other. Well, that's a good representation of what yin and yang is like. So when they say that Taiji Chuan is the ultimate fist, the ultimate pole fist, it's not that it is the ultimate martial art. It is that it is the martial manifestation of this philosophy of Tai Chi. So the important thing about Tai Chi Chuan is energy. So how do you get that energy? And the forms are exercises to help you get those things. And the way the energy of Tai Chi comes about is it comes from the ground. So it comes from your feet. So the saying was that it is rooted in your feet. It is strengthened in your legs. It is controlled by your waist and manifest in your hands. So the first thing that's important in Tai Chi is to get a good root. So if you remember your Greek mythology, one of the labors of Hercules was to defeat a famous wrestler, Antaeus. And he found that Antaeus was the son of Gaia. And the reason why he had never been defeated was that as long as he touched the ground, his mother, Gaia, would feed him energy. And he would always have as much energy as the earth could provide. And when Hercules found this out, the moment he approached Antaeus, he lifted him off the ground and he became powerless, and Hercules crushed him. So I want you to be like Antaeus. I want you to think about being well rooted in the ground. And how do you do that? What happens is that when you stand, I want you to feel your feet. I want you to think about having what I think of as the triangle of your foot with all corners on the ground. So if this is your foot, and I think of it as a triangle in that you have this side, which is like the big toe side, and the little toe side, and the heel. So that forms kind of a triangle. And if you think about that, and as you stand, I want you to think about all three corners equally pressed into the ground. So I don't want you to have like the side having more weight than the big toe side and so on. I want you to think about things being even. Then I want you to think about how are you stacked? What is your body structure? In order to transfer energy, you have to have your body lined up Okay. So the practice for this is standing. And I'll show you in a moment what standing is. But the principle of lining up your body is that you want your head to be up. Okay. Kelly says, think of a sunflower. The sunflower reaches up toward the sun. I want you to think of your head reaching up toward the ceiling. Okay. And then from your neck down, I want your body to hang down so it's firmly rooted into the ground. Okay. So head up and the rest of your body down. And the way I want you to stand is I want you to tuck your tailbone down. So what happens is you have kind of a hollow in your back, right? If you tuck your tailbone down, it straightens out this hollow. And I want your knees to be slightly bent, and I want you to straighten out that hollow. And what that does is it lines up your vertebrae so that you don't have any of them that are kind of crunched. Okay. You want things to be flexible and relaxed. Now, when I say move your tailbone down in order to straighten your back, this does not mean that I want you to do a pelvic tilt, because a pelvic tilt essentially tightens your abdominal muscles. And that is what you do not want. Because one of the purposes of standing is that you want to line up your structure so that you can breathe freely. If you tighten up your abdominal muscles, you cannot do abdominal breathing. So think about lowering your tailbone. And then I want you, if we do standing, you have your feet shoulders width apart. And what is shoulders width apart? Shoulders width apart means that the outside of your feet line up with the outside of your shoulders. And used to be what we did was we took a tape measure and measured. But I found out there's a cheater's way of doing that. And that is stand with your feet together. Then move your toes out so that you form a 90-degree angle where your heels meet. Then move your feet out, and that is shoulders width apart. Okay? So I have your shoulders width apart. So that lines up your legs with your torso, right? Then what I want you to do is relax your knees. So bend them very slightly. Then I want you to move your tailbone down so that you straighten your back. Your head is up, right? And I want your arms to form like a circle. You see the circle? And the features of this stance are your head is up, your tailbone is down, your shoulders are down, your elbows are down, your back is rounded. Why? Because you want your energy to come from your spine out your fingers. So think of from your one set of fingers to the other set of fingers, you have this round shape. And it's about a fist width apart, right? So chest sunken, back rounded, elbows down, shoulders down, head up, waist relaxed. The waist is the middle body. Okay, that's why I wanted your tailbone down, because that relaxes your middle body. And by having your entire foot on the ground, you're totally grounded, right? In the old days, they would have students stand for hours like this. But let's just try doing it for 2 minutes, okay? So we can get into shape, and we'll start now. And I'll count out 2 minutes, okay? So, especially when you're beginning, you're going to be doing all kinds of little adjustments to make sure that your alignment is correct. Okay, keep thinking about, hey, do I have my head up? Are my arms rounded? Shoulders down? Elbows below shoulder level? Are my knees lined up with my toes? Is my tailbone down? You'll find that as you stand, you're going to be doing this little bit of shifting, and that is a kind of readjustment. Okay, you've done 1 minute. These little readjustments are very important because they train your little muscles, and the little muscles are what help you keep your balance. Okay, it's not the big muscles, it's the little ones. And so by doing this, you do a number of things. You train your posture. You help your breathing because it allows your diaphragm to move freely. And the third most important thing is it strengthens your legs. For the Chinese, you age from your legs up. So if you want to stay young, take care of your leg strength. Okay, that was 2 minutes. See, not so bad, right? So the thing about yin and yang is because it's like a dynamic balancing of dualities. Okay, so there are all kinds of things that form dualities, like high and low, in and out, and empty and full. And empty and full is very important in Tai Chi because it is how you are able to balance and how you do stepping. Okay, when you step, you essentially fill one leg, empty the other. The empty leg moves to whatever position you want it to be in, and then the full leg transfers its energy to what was the empty leg, and it becomes full. So when you are able to make discrete empty and full, that helps you keep your balance. And it's actually harder when you do it than when you say it. So we can give it a try. So one of the most basic stepping exercises is Qigong walking. So if you take a line, I have this line, and you put one foot at 45 degrees with the heel on the line, then you move toward the toe of that foot and you lift up the other foot and you put it on the line with the heel on the line and the toe toward the other 45 degrees. And you move toward that toe as you lift up the other. Then you transfer, turn, move, set, turn, transfer. See, when you're transferring, you're actually pushing off the back in order to put the weight on the front. Can you see that? Push off the back to get to the front. And then this becomes empty. And step forward. So this is a variation of an exercise a lot of PTs use for balance, which is you stand and you just toe to heel, and walk forward. There's a little variation on that. And the full walk is you're turning this way and your hands go this way. Then you step and your hands go this way. So I'm going to go that way so I can walk a little longer, okay? And you can see me from a different angle. So 45 degrees, hands go toward the toe direction. 45 degrees, move, 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 move. And the reason this is a good exercise, especially since you're doing it slowly, is that it allows to feel all your little muscles. And it illustrates to you how they help you keep your balance. So it's a good exercise, even if you weren't doing Tai Chi, okay? The other reason I wanted to teach you standing was it is the reference shape. In other words, if you ever get stuck in the form and you want to figure out what should my shape be, it should be like standing. It should have this shoulders down, elbows down, rounded chest or sunken chest, rounded back look. And it should line up your spine. When we, our first move, the first calling in Tai Chi is prepare. And what is prepare? Prepare is a variation of standing practice. It is the getting ready to move. So it is lining up your vertebrae, raising your head, lowering your tailbone, relaxing your knees, making sure your knees are lined up with your toes, making sure your feet are parallel with each other and facing forward. So if you think about prepare, you have your hands at the side of if your pants have seams, your middle finger will be on the seams of your pants. And other than that, the rest of your body should look like this. Okay. But this is like the Wu Ji. This is the no movement. But there is actually movement inside because you are straining up everything so that you are ready to move. So let's do the very first move, and that is opening. So if you have your feet shoulders width apart and your hands are by your sides, your head is up, your tailbone is down, your spine is straight, you're at prepare. Opening. Rotate your hands so that they are in front of your thighs. Then raise them up so that they are shoulder level. Then think of pressing down with your palms. Coming down almost to the bottom. The way you do this is the determinant of the pace of your form. If you do this fast, it says that you're going to do the pace, the form really fast. And so think about how fast you want to do the whole form as you do this. So your hands are at the seams of your pants. Now, the whole time, I do not want you to close up your elbows, okay? What that does is it raises tension and it automatically raises your shoulders. So leave a little opening and then your fingertips lightly touch the side of your pant. So as you open, you're going to turn, raise to shoulder level, and then press down with your palms. Until you're almost at the bottom. So from the side, looks like this. You're here, your head is up, your tailbone is down. Turn so your palms are in the back. Raise up to shoulder level. And then press down. So you're almost at the bottom. And your hands are going to be a little bit in front of your thighs. See that? Okay. So let's do that a couple more times. And then I will show you the bow stance. Okay. So I'll do it one more time from here. Okay. Hands on the side of your pants. Turn so that they are in front of your thighs. Raise them up to shoulder level. Press down till they're almost at the bottom. And again. Turn. Raise up to shoulder level. Press down. Almost at the bottom. And release. So one of the joints that we don't think much about, which turns out to be quite important in Tai Chi is the turning of your forearm. Okay. Most people think of their shoulder joints, their elbows, right? But they don't think much about the turning of your forearm. And this is what this does. You're turning your forearm in order to get to this position. And the reason why it's important to be able to turn your forearm is that it enables you to keep the orientation of your arm in a given plane. What do I mean by that? So if I go here, if I cannot turn my forearm, this is as far as I can go. If I turn my forearm, it's easy for me to come up, right? So turning the forearm allows me to stay in the same plane as opposed to having to come out, right? If I want to go up, I would have to come out if I did not turn my forearm. And what does turning your forearm do? It allows you to keep your elbow down. If you were to come up, your elbow and shoulder would come up. But by turning, you can keep the elbow and shoulder down. And that gives you more control. So all these little ways of moving your body are what you learn to control in Tai Chi. Okay? So let's think about stepping, because your first major move, left ward off, is going to involve stepping into a bow stance. So if you were standing shoulder width apart, the way you make a bow stance is you turn one foot to the corner by pivoting on your heel, okay? Then you put all your weight on that foot and then lift this foot and move it forward. And then transfer your weight, moving your weight from the back to the front. So you're pushing off the back and stopping with the front. So you're going to have 60% in the front and 40% in the back. But the origination of the move comes from the back. It's pushing off the back and stabilizing in the front. And what does this final position look like? Your back foot is 45 degrees. Your front foot is straight ahead. And your knees are both lined up with your toes. So this knee is lined up with this toe, but just as importantly, this knee is lined up with that toe. So what we don't want is collapsing knees. We do not want this knee to come in or this knee to come in, because you lose your structure. And how do you make sure that your knees are lined up with your toes? You basically have to have flexible hips. And what I would like you to think about doing is exercising for your hips so that you will make them stronger and more flexible. So I'm going to do a quick hip exercise to show you. Okay, suppose you have one foot 45 degrees and the other foot you just put forward anywhere. I want you to think of having your heel and then your toe. Heel, toe. Heel, toe. Then on the other side, heel, toe. Heel, toe. Heel, toe. Now we're going to start working on the hips. We're going to put 1 foot 45 degrees, but this time I want you to do big toe, little toe, big toe, little toe. And you see that my hip is moving out. And you should feel pretty stable with this because for most of the time you have both feet touching the ground. So on this side, you have big toe, little toe, big toe, little toe, big toe, little toe, big toe, little toe. Now for the next one, if you do not have good balance, I want you to hold on to something. So I have a chair rail here, but you can have a chair or anything else you can hold on to. What really works well is a kitchen counter. So what I want you to do is think about making knee circles. Okay, so if you have 1 foot 45 degrees, hold on to something, and then I want you to make a circle with your knee. Okay, make a circle with your knee. One side and do the other side too. You want to be symmetrical, right? So you should do this to train your hip muscles and to improve your balance. Okay, so this is a very good exercise for you to try for those 2 reasons. Okay, so let's do more bow stance. So feet shoulders width apart. You move it in the beginning of the form, you're going to move your right foot to the corner. So I'm going to do it. Well, I'll do it. I'll do it this way. Okay. So I'm standing, shoulders width apart. I move my weight to the left to release my right. And then I pivot on the heel so that my foot is pointed to the corner. Then I put all my weight to the right. And then I pick up my left and move it straight forward. And then that's touch. Then as I push off the back, heel, ball, toe, bend knee. And when I bend my knee, if you're wearing shoes that have shoelaces, your knee should not go beyond the shoelaces. Okay, you should still see the toe of your shoe. And your front leg is bent and your back leg is taiji straight. That is mostly straight, but relaxed. Okay? Now, generally speaking, we step like this. You move your weight to release the front foot, and then you turn it to 45 degrees. Then as you come forward, your foot comes in a little and then goes out. And why don't we do that for the very first one? You generally pull in the foot before you step out if you are coming from more than shoulders width apart. But since at the beginning you're starting at shoulders width, you don't have to come in, you just step straight out. And how do you know how far to step? So when I mean, people see people do Tai Chi and they think, oh, it would be really great to do it really low. And yes, it would be nice to do it really low, but it requires really good leg strength. So how far you can step, what I call the stride, is determined by how low you can go. Okay, so if I'm standing up, I can go this far. Okay, and what do I mean by can go this far? That's as far as I go that I can easily come back, right? Easily come back. I don't have to push off to come back, right? Now, if I have a lower stance, then I can step longer because what means is my back leg is strong enough that I can come back. So your stride is dependent on how low you can go. Do not step so low, so far that you have to push back in order to come back. So the principle is to keep centered. Don't go farther than you can come back. Okay? So if I'm doing the bow stance here, I'm turning 45 degrees. I put my weight on this foot and then I come forward, heel, ball, toe. I'm pushing off the back and stopping at the front. Generally speaking, in a bow stance, you have a lean. That is, you can see that my back is lined up from the heel to the nape of my neck. It's kind of like a slant. Almost always, when you have a bow stance, you have that slant. If you do not have the slant, then you essentially have to open up your hips slightly more so that you can push this in and straighten up your back. Okay. So the two kinds of bow stance, you have the kind with the lean and the kind with the straight back where you put in the hips and basically widen. In other words, instead of just facing the corner, you face a little bit more than the corner so that you can stand up straight. And there are only 3 poses in the long form that require that straight up and down bow stand. And unfortunately, the very first move does. So it's like, why do you have to have an exception for the very first one? But that's the way it is. Okay? So let's try to do a few. Well, let's do what is called Tai Chi walking, which is walking forward with the bow stance. So if you start shoulders width apart, you shift the weight to the left to release the right. You turn, or I'll do it. Sorry, I'll do it this way. You See my feet? Okay. So shift weight slightly to the left, turn the right to the corner, put all the weight on the right, and then move the foot forward. Heel, ball, toe, bend knee. Then shift your weight slightly to the right, pivot the heel of the left, turn your hips toward the front foot direction, move forward, come through, step out, heel, ball, toe, bend knee. Shift back, turn your hips in that direction. This becomes your plant foot direction, right? So you come through and step out, push off, heel, ball, toe, bend knee. Let's try that again. Okay. So shift to the left, turn the right toe to the corner, shift all the way to the right, lift up the left, set, heel down first, heel, ball, toe, bend knee. Shift back, turn, move forward, come through, heel, ball, toe, bend knee. Shift back, turn, hips go toward the front toe direction. So in general, your hips are going to be in the direction of the back foot. So when I said here, my hips are going in this direction. I'm going to come forward, heel, ball, toe, bend knee. My hips are still in the direction of the back foot. When I change, as I step, I move my weight back. I'm going to turn this front foot. This front foot becomes my back foot. So that's why I turn. I come forward in that direction. And my hips are in the back foot direction. Okay. So one of the things that's important is to keep your hips in the back foot direction because that gives you more stability. Now, how do you move around then if your hips are in the back foot direction? That's where your waist comes in. Your waist directs where your motion is going. Okay, so my hips can be this way, but I can, because my middle body controls the direction, I can move around even though my hips stay in that direction. And the reason that is important is that it gives you a stable base even as you move around. So when you, for example, do a strike, let's say if you do a brush knee and you do a strike, when you're doing a strike, you're going to transfer your weight but your hips are still in that direction, even though my shoulders are squaring up toward the front. So I can transfer energy, but I want to keep a stable base. And that's the idea of having a good bow stance. Okay, so the important things for a bow stance are back foot 45 degrees, front foot straight ahead, shoulders width apart, 60-40 weight distribution, right? And for most of them, lean forward, meaning you're going to have this shape with those three exceptions, which essentially say open slightly more, and that straightens up your stance. Okay, but it will feel more natural to you to have that leaning stance. So when you're striking, it'll feel natural to you to have that leaning shape. Generally speaking, when you have the straight up and down shape, it's because you're striking in two directions. Okay, and that's why you're going to be straight up and down. Any questions? No?
I have a question.
Yes.
The first set of Tai Chi walk, is that what you call Bakwa?
That I call that Qigong walking.
Qigong walking. Okay.
Qigong walking. So it's a one line, two side kind of walking.
Right.
Whereas the Tai Chi walking is a shoulders width kind of walking.
Okay.
So they're different. And the shoulders width kind of walking will feel more stable to you than the Qigong walking. But that's why you should do Qigong walking, because it helps your balance.
I love it.
So, and your hands help, because when you go here, your hands help you do that transfer, right? You can, as you practice, I think it's a very good exercise.
And I believe it.
So, and we use a little bit of it in the form when we do parry, block, and punch. We use it for a transitional move. But generally speaking, when we're going forward, we use the bow stance. So it's good to know both. Okay? Are there any questions in terms of either the walking or the stances? No? Okay, next week, we are going to work on the very first real move, which is left ward off. Okay? So thank you very much for coming to class. And I will see you next week.